I'm Matthew. Today, I'm building a realistic Finnish winter cabin in bloxburg, as suggested in the comments. Let's get started. I began with the landscaping, specifically the walls of the hill. It was the easiest task in this build, but it laid the foundation for the entire winter retreat. To add visual interest and dimension, I decided to include roofs along the walls. This small detail broke up the flat, plain look and gave the landscape a more dynamic, layered feel. I was already thinking about the texture I will use for the cabin walls. I wanted something that will capture the cozy, rustic feel of a Finnish winter retreat. I was also considering if I should use structural details like wooden beams as logs to give the cabin an extra layer of depth. I knew this build would be challenging from the start. With all the ideas I had in mind, it wasn't just about creating a simple cabin. I wanted every detail to stand out, like designing a custom path that blended perfectly with a snowy landscape. It was clear this project will require time and effort, but I was eager to dive in and make it happen. My goal was to finish the cabin before Christmas, which I did, but I didn't edit the video in time. I'd say the custom path was undoubtedly the most time-consuming aspect of this build, but honestly, I'm glad for the final result. At least it's not just a straightforward flat walkway. About an hour into the build, I started adding little details like snow piles, rocks and bushes. These touches gave the path a more worn, natural look, as if it's been traveled over time. As I was adding these, I also started thinking about the snow on the path. I really wanted to find the right decal to make it look realistic, something that would blend seamlessly with the surroundings. It took a bit of trial and error, but choosing the right decal was key to make the snow look like it has been naturally packed down by tire tracks and the winter weather. And do you know what I chose in the end? A decal with clouds of the earth. Kind of an unexpected choice, right? But it actually worked out surprisingly well. The soft, swirling texture of the clouds gave a unique, subtle effect that felt right for the snow on the road. Now, I won't lie, I kept going back and forth on it because the tire tracks with the decal just wouldn't stop looking weird to me. I couldn't tell if it was working or not, but I decided to trust the process. Placing the decals for the tire tracks turned out to be a bit more challenging than I expected. I had to be super careful to make sure they didn't glitch or disappear, which is easier said than done. Each decal needed to be aligned just right to avoid any weird overlaps or issues, and honestly, it was pretty tiring. But even though it was tedious, I knew that taking the time to get it right would make the road look so much better in the end. As you can see, the path is slightly lower than the second floor. I thought this would be a nice touch because it's something you often see in real life. And here's a time-lapse of me building the road. You'll see the whole process, from placing down the cloud decal, yes, the one I'm using as snow, to adding snow bumps and snow piles for extra detail. It's a mix of planning and some creative improvisation, but watching it all come together is satisfying. By the way, when I mentioned the Linzer cookies in the previous video, I made a second portion and I made 108 of them. Sorry for this weird insertion. I even tried driving a vehicle on the road. I picked this one because I thought it was the only car in my inventory, completely forgetting about the Halloween car. While testing it out, the car got stuck a few times, which is honestly both frustrating and hilarious. So I made a few changes to the road, and then I tested it to see how the tire tracks and path worked together. At this point, I was really looking forward to finishing the custom road. Seeing it come together piece by piece, the snow decals, the bumps, and all the little details, it was so satisfying. Even with the challenges, I completed this part of the build because I put a lot of effort into it and I didn't want to delete it anymore. And here's where I remembered I had the Halloween car in my inventory. I couldn't believe I'd forgotten about it earlier, and of course I had to test it out on the custom road right away. And guess what? The Halloween car ended up getting stuck even more times than the previous one. After finishing the road, I moved on to adding some touches to the landscape. I placed trees, rocks, and bushes along the path to make it feel more like in a forest. With the road complete, it was time to move on the cabin itself. and I decided to start with the custom windows. To make the cabin more interesting and detailed, I decided to add rods as locks along the walls. I felt this would give the cabin that authentic rustic feel, but it definitely added a lot more time to the build. Each lock needed to be carefully placed, but in the end, it made such a big difference in the overall look. The extra effort was totally worth it for that added touch of realism. Here's a short time-lapse of me adding the rods, aka locks, to the front wall of the cabin. By the way, I just have to mention, I tried to do a voiceover before Christmas, and I didn't have space to record it because the walls are so thin you can hear everything through them, like literally. I couldn't record in peace, and I don't know if I was shy of them hearing me or if I couldn't record because they were loud. So I decided to record it outside in -3 degrees Celsius, and I was so cold. I was shaking, and whatever, just listen to this. Because I'm literally sitting on a bench outside, and I don't know if you can hear the cars, but I'm so cold and I can't record. People are approaching. I'm literally shaking right now. Oh my god. Incredibly satisfying. I hear shooting. Are they? Is it fireworks? Oh my god. Oh, okay, there are fireworks. And then it's so cold, I'm shaking, and I feel like my fingers are in fire, and it's one day before Christmas, so yeah, that's how much I tried to finish a video, but I didn't have enough time. Next, I moved on to creating the custom roof. I'm happy with how it turned out. To complete the roof, I decided to add some snow on top, giving it a winter touch and making the cabin feel like it had been standing through the cold, snowy months. To add more charm to the cabin, I decided to build a balcony at the back, making sure it was supported by pillars, which added a nice touch of architectural detail to the cabin. Then, I started adding snow on top of everything, like the supports, pillars, walls, and locks. I wanted to create that perfect winter atmosphere where everything is coated with snow, making the cabin feel like it's been enduring the cold season. I used a lot of different techniques to enhance the look of the road, including the snow-covered edge item. However, I realized I forgot to place it everywhere, so I had to go back and add it to every spot I missed. It took quite a bit of time, especially since I had to rotate every single piece I placed, but in the end, I'd say it was totally worth it. The detail it added made difference, making it less plain and simple. As for the snow on the logs, I initially used a simple rod structural, but after looking at it the next day, I realized it was too plain and didn't capture the effect I wanted. So I switched to the snow-covered edge item, oh my god, which added a much more realistic and detailed snow layer to the logs, completing the cabin's winter look. The cabin looked plain without snow, almost like it was missing something. I tried to save it with extra logs on top of another logs like this. I'm not sure how to explain it or how to describe it, but it didn't quite work out. I thought about what I should add to it before sleep, and I applied it the next day. Once I added the snow on the logs and around the structure, it completely transformed the look. It added not just more detail, but also a burst of color, breaking up the simplicity and giving the cabin a much richer wintry vibe. And now, with the snow, it almost looks like a gingerbread house. For even more detail, I added a few logs sticking out of the wall. This small touch made the cabin look older and more rustic, giving it that weathered, lived-in feel. It's these little details that bring the whole build together, making it feel like it's been standing in the snow for years, with stories to tell. Then, I came across a new decal that was pretty much the same as the road I'd made. Tire trails with snow between them, but it was flat. At first, I thought about replacing the entire road with this new decal, but I'd already spent so much time customizing the path that I didn't want to lose all that work. Instead, I decided to use it in front of the cabin. With the cabin nearly finished, I moved on to the scenery. I decided to add a small frozen stream in front of the balcony so you can spot it from there. Finally, I added the last touches, trees. I made sure they are as tall as they could be. Their height added to the cabin's cozy, secluded vibe, making it feel like it was hidden away in a vast, snowy wilderness. The last things I added were chairs for the balcony, a snowmobile near the cabin, a snowman in the front, and a wreath on the door. And that's it! Here are a few shots of the finished cabin. I hope you enjoyed watching the progress come together. Don't forget to subscribe for more builds like this. I'm Matthew, and I want to wish you all Happy New Year. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.